All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
And welcome to Chicago Junction, the radio program that is all about the amazing world of railroading and the many facets of the industry and also model railroading. I'm your announcer, Brian Ballou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, and the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Large on Monday, May the 14th, the year 2018. Today the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Well, thank you, John. Now, our chief dispatcher is still out because of health reasons, but he, for some reason, knows what's happening, and he calls us once in a while. So, our head man is still checking on us, and it's Mr. Jack Red Ryan. But I, again, lost the toss again. So I, your announcer, Brian Blue, will be the host to get all the complaints. Right now, like I said, I am Brian Ballou. I am a model railroader enthusiast with both Lionel and G-gauge trains. I belong to several museums and historical societies. With the Chicago chapter NRHS, I'm one of the directors. But I also go as far down as the Reading Railway Museum that's in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. The Cincinnati Railroad Club and Cinder Sniffers. And yes, and I even help run the Botanic Garden with its trains, which is opening this weekend. So, without further ado, to my right,
the other left.
One of them directions.
I'm Ron Stock. I'm a retired library director from Norwich and Harwood Heights, Eisenhower Public Library. Railroad fan and railroad enthusiast, also Amtrak user.
That
next.
it? That it? No
I'm
more?
making it short.
Come on.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Berry. I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, a director with the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and a lifelong Lionel collector and operator.
And I'm Dave DeRuska. I am a retired locomotive engineer. Worked with Metra, Illinois Central, Wisconsin Central, and the Chicago Northwestern. Also, I have a blog called Player with Railroads, which is about Chicago Railroad history. I run a Facebook page called Chicago Railroad Historians, and I do our Facebook page, Chicago Junction. And I'm also advocating for a month called Chicago Railroad History Month, officially declared, we hope, by the city of Chicago.
how is the pledge coming?
Yeah. Let's see. Out of 1,000 petitions I'm looking for, so far I have 76. I sent a letter to my alderman, and he hasn't responded. So I sent a letter to the head of the Special Events Committee, alderman who's the head of the Special Events Committee, early this week, and I haven't received a response yet. I did get a very nice letter of support from the Chicago History Museum, saying that whatever they can do to help, they would be more than happy to. I also have a couple railroad museums and locomotive societies that have signed on. So, you know, I figure it's going to be a long haul.
Slowly but surely. Oh, that's real good. Some good news. The Roman Railway Museum's opening up a new exhibition. on the 11th and running through to August 19th. Wallace W. Abbey, A Life in Railroad Photography.
I will be there tomorrow night for the opening.
I won't, because I'll be at a board meeting for the Chicago chapter NRHS.
You and the other board member, is that it?
Yeah, other than the other board members, that's it. The Center for Railroad Photography is putting together another wonderful train-themed exhibit of the photographs of Wallace W. Abbey, and it's also in conjunction with a book that was written by Kevin Keefe and Scott Lowe's. And they're going to be there with their books, and we'll sign the books for you tomorrow night.
I'll be riding up on Hiawatha tomorrow and riding back on Saturday.
And the and another thing, another with the Center for Railroad Photography and Art, they just received the collection of photographs and negatives from, oh my God, I just forgot his name, Jim Shaughnessy.
Okay.
His all his early steam photographs.
They also just came out with a new book that is revisiting the photography of Beebe and Klieg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, brand new book out.
That's good.
Yeah, they talk a lot about them personally, personality-wise, as well as the photography.
That's good, because, those two gentlemen have been more influential for just plain railfan photography.
Right.
Than just, their, quote, lifestyles.
Right.
But what they've done, owning their own newspaper.
Had their own rail car, private rail car?
Two.
Oh.
Yeah, the other one, the Gold Coast, is in the California State Railroad Museum.
Okay.
And Virginia City is still certified for use.
But Amtrak won't move it.
The way things are going.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, we're going to have fun, people.
Yeah.
All our 12 listeners, please, if you have comments on anything that we talk about, please let it know through Facebook, and we can bring it up, actually, on the show.
Right.
Or we can apologize for it.
Nah.
I received something in the mail that they had substituted out one of the cars for the Joliet Rocket. It's going to be a standard, it's going to be a coach instead of the Vista Dome. I guess whoever had the Vista Dome, it's either not available or here, I'm going to be sarcastic. The money wasn't right.
It's possible. I think Amtrak raised the rates for hauling private cars.
Oh, if you've read the tariff story that was in on Trainswire, they came out with new pricing for parking in the stations. A lot of the stations are in between the $200 and $300 range, $350 range. Come to Chicago, though. I guess Cook County got involved in it, and the city tax. It's $600 to park a night in Chicago.
Wow! If you don't pay, do they tow you?
Yeah, they call the Lincoln Park Pirates.
Yeah, they put a boot on your.
Yeah, put the boot on the wheel. The Lincoln Park Pirates.
I went to school at DePaul, and we lived in fear of the Lincoln Park Pirates, even when we parked in the university lots.
Yeah.
When a car turned up missing on campus, the first thing the campus security did was call Lincoln Park Towing.
Yeah, that's one of the couple favorite songs that Dr. Demento plays. The Saga of the Lincoln Park Pirates by Steve Goodwin.
Good man.
Good man. Excuse me. I apologize.
There's no excuse for you, Brian. Sorry.
Well, that is true. That is. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, and that's his redeeming quality.
Let's talk about some other bright stuff here.
Well, let's get our librarian into the action. Apparently, you bought a couple little items for us to see.
Yep. I've always was fascinated by the cab forward steam engine, partially because when it first came out, the engineers didn't like it. they wanted more traditional, even though the Southern Pacific built it because they were having problems with oxygen in the tunnels because of the steam and stuff.
The log snow sheds they had going up the Sierras.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a unique engine. It's a 4882, and was run by the Southern Pacific. The only one of that style none of the other railroads went and did that design, and Broadway Limited has done a second run of them, and in addition to having a black and silver, which was pretty much the traditional colors for the steam engine, they also had a maroon with kind of a grayish paint scheme also was done. And this particular, in addition to those two designs, they came out with the traditional Southern Pacific orange, black, and red design colors in that paint scheme.
Daylight.
The daylight scheme. And I'll ask you guys, but I didn't think that engine ever came out in that scheme.
No.
As far as I'm aware
No.
of. So, and that's kind of unusual for a Broadway Limited to come out with something that's
A
fantasy scheme. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you gotta have fantasy once in a
Right.
while. Because people actually buy it.
Right. So anyway, it's a very colorful scheme, but
And it's actually is sharp if done right.
right. And but I actually wanted something more traditional, so I got the black and silver. The engine number is 4106. The other pertinent information is that it's an AC-4.
See? Remember when I asked you?
Yes, you asked me that, and I wasn't looking at the box. So anyway, it's a very nice. The Broadway Limited does really nice semi-brass or brass engines with a lot of detailing on it, and it's a very well detailed engine.
I will agree.
So, and
They got nice sound systems.
yes,
And we will post information on our Facebook page with photo.
okay. I was going to try to get to do some more information about a cab forward engine, but I have to admit my home computer's been having problems for about 2 weeks. So the AT&T sent me a new modem, so that hopefully after today it'll be better. The other thing that's coming up, it's going to be in June, on June 23rd and 24th. Very popular. They're having Railroad Days and Toy Show in Galesburg, Illinois. And it's going to be at the Galesburg Field House, which is 1242 West Dayton Street in Galesburg, Illinois. On Saturday, June 23rd, it's going to be from 9 to 4. And on Sunday, the 24th, it's from 10 to 3. And they're going to have more than 250 tables of model trains, books and memorabilia, layouts, and there will be 80 plus vendors and exhibitors. And it is one of the largest model railroad shows in the country. They're also going to have toy shows, which will feature Hot Wheels, NASCAR, military, dolls, and sports cards. And the Spoon River Antique Tractor Club will be on display, as well as a Lego display. So it's fun for the whole family. Admission is $5. Children's under 12 are free. And anyway, so if you get a chance, you might want to go to the show.
Do you have a web address on that?
Let's see. Actually, it doesn't look like they listed one. Oh, maybe it's on the back. Let me see.
Well, if you have two of them, I'll take one and I'll put it on the.
Right. They got two people's names listed as contacts. Larry. Oh, thank you, Brian. Brian was great at finding the web address, which I am a bit didn't see. It's www, capital G, Galesburg, capital Train and Toy Show. And that's all one word. All run on no spaces, .org.
Is it an and or an ampersand?
It's an and.
Okay. Train and Toy Show.
Yes. And check out your hobby shops because I've been to two of them and they both had flyers. So generally, if you go to a train hobby shop, they're probably going to be advertising it at there. And on the flyer, they actually have directions from Chicago and from up north, west, and east, and south to get there.
And you can actually take Amtrak to Galesburg. That is a stop.
Yes.
So far.
History running not contrary to the memory of man.
You're also going to have live music, a street fair, lots of food, showcase of cars, railroad museum carnival, on-track displays, and also yard bus tours. And those will be some of the other items that will be going on at Galesburg. I think Galesburg is. I'm trying to remember which Amtrak train goes to Galesburg.
There's actually two that run down there. One of the ones that runs straight out to the west coast is the early train. It goes out of Union Station at like 6-ish in the morning. And then there's another one slightly more civilized that goes out about 8 or 8:30. Or did at least when we made the trip.
If you go to the Amtrak site, they'll have, and type in Galesburg, they'll certainly list it, especially from Chicago. Okay.
It may.
Hey, will they have a drunken golden spike hammering contest? Did you care to explain that, Kevin? We were talking about this on the way over, about the golden spike.
Okay, today is May 10th, and it is the 149th anniversary of the driving of the Golden Spike, signifying the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. And
The second one built.
the tradition and lore says that the territorial governor showed up to the ceremony smoked to the gills. And it took 2 hours of attempting to sober him up enough that he could actually appear in public. And he took several strikes with the sledgehammer before he actually hit the Golden Spike.
And we are not surprised.
Yeah, right.
No.
It was the Wild West.
Yes, it was.
Going back to the Galesburg for just a moment, if you do go and it is your intention to take the bus tour of the rail yard, find where they are selling the tickets for the bus tour the minute you arrive, because there are a limited number of buses and the tickets sell rapidly. There is a hump yard in Galesburg, and if you've never had the opportunity to see a train separated through the use of a hump track down into the classification yard, that alone is worth the cost of the bus ticket.
Hell, we can set up a tour to Proviso.
They still humping cars there?
Well, they're doing something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think this hump is still in operation.
Yeah,
there.
that's still there. Hunter hadn't convinced them to take it out,
Yeah, well,
like he's doing everybody else.
right. Yeah, that's kind of.
And he's dead too. You know.
Yeah, well.
30 years ago, when I was still in the reserves, I had a crazy lieutenant working for me, and somehow he had acquired a "Do Not Hump" placard from the side of a boxcar and had it wired to the front of his Toyota Land Rover. You had to know Randy to appreciate his sense of humor. He, great artillery spotter, but crazy as a bedbug. Of course, you don't have to be real sane to be in the artillery.
No, you don't.
Look at me.
You were in the
Enough said.
you were in the Seaborn variant.
Yeah, so I stayed out of sight.
Yeah, death from over the horizon. Anyhow,
Speaking of hot air, what do you got there?
thank you so very much, sir. It's always a pleasure to do business with you. I didn't have anything brand new from Lionel to bring in and talk about, so I grabbed a couple of bulkhead cars. One is the 6467 and the other's the 6477. And one was issued with a cardboard tube with metal ends on it, silver end caps, white cardboard with black printing that says Lionel liquefied gases, liquefied hydrogen, 6469. And they're just sort of a unique car that you don't see a whole lot of anymore. And Brian is going over them like a proud godfather.
You got standard trucks on them, too.
Yeah, they're just sort of unique cars simply because they don't make them anymore. And I was, you always have cars that you can't find loads for. These two do. But I was, it's springtime and most of us have wives that are making us repair the damage to the garden done over the winter. So we're replacing those solar-powered lights that the ladies like in the garden. Well, you just snatch the old non-working head off and throw the new head on, and you wind up with either 1.25 inch diameter, 6-inch long metal tubes, or 3/4 inch diameter, 6-inch long plastic tubes, and they make real good loads for Lionel cars. You can throw them in short gondolas. If you got some of the really old stamped metal flat cars that should have the small pieces of dowel rod on them, they'll fit in there. If you're fortunate enough to have what looks like a can of Harry Potter butter beer that came with the jelly beans in it, the top twists off so you don't pop the top. It makes a great load on a Lionel car, and there's no Rule G violation.
If you say so.
Well, you can run prototype, or you can have a little fun with it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having fun.
They don't make a bottle of Bushmill that's small enough to go on a Lionel car.
Let's face it, one of the greatest modelers had a hell of a sense of humor, and that was John Allen.
Yep.
Who did the Gory and Defeated Railroad.
One of the best vignettes on the Jackie Gleason show was when he was playing Reginald von Snoot, whatever Reginald's last name was.
Gleason.
And he had the Lionel train set come out with a shot of whiskey on the flat car.
and said, "Things go swell with Lionel."
I had the pleasure of seeing his personal train car once. It's down in the Tennessee Central Museum in Nashville. It on the outside, all it says is "The Office," and then it has the number 104. But very much like John Madden, Jackie Gleason would not fly. So when he went from New York to Florida or New York to California, he traveled in his own personal stainless steel square-ended observation car. Now, it's just a beautiful piece of rolling stock. Someday I'll be rich enough to own one. I may have to sell my house to buy one, but I'll own one.
You'll have to sell your house to park one at Amtrak.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I see a trend developing here. I'm going to be the whipping boy tonight.
No.
No.
Red's not here to be abused.
No. See, what we're doing is just warming up. Don't worry.
There's enough.
Thank you,
abuse.
sir.
There's enough to go around.
Enough abuse to go around the table.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Are we at break time yet?
Soon. You haven't
Yeah,
quite
coming.
drawn enough blood.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get one notice in, and then we'll.
Oh,
Go for it.
okay. The continuing saga of Iowa Pacific Holdings. The railroad that seems the only business is to park cars in inappropriate places. The Saratoga and North Creek Railway, which is in the Adirondacks, and its parent company, Iowa Pacific Holdings, owe nearly $1.36 million in taxes from 2013 through 2015, according to a lien filed by the Internal Revenue Service in late March. The railroad, which ended its passenger rail excursions between Saratoga Springs and North Creek last month, and this was, I think, in April. Yeah. Oh, no, March. So, yeah, they ended it in April. Also faces overdue property taxes in Essex, Warren, and Saratoga counties. But Ed Ellis, our hero, the railroad's president, said Monday afternoon that the Chicago-based Iowa Pacific had worked out an installment plan to pay off the debt with the IRS for those years. The IRS service spokesman couldn't immediately be reached for comment. The railroad drew ire of local officials when it began storing surplus oil tanker cars, many covered in graffiti, on the line it owns along the Hudson, Boreas, and Opalescent rivers and Vanderwacker Brook between North Creek and Tahawas. That's a tongue twister. Public pressure led the owners of those tank cars to move them elsewhere, Ellis told Warren County supervisors at a meeting in March. The loss of revenues, he said, left him unable to afford the line, and he called for the county to purchase it from him for $5 million. Do you smell a scam here? Not all the cars have been moved. John Sheehan of the Adirondack Council, a conservation advocacy group, said Monday that 24 cars remained parked on the line out of nearly 90 that were originally stored there. Let's see. I'll skip some of this stuff and go to the tax lien. Was unpaid taxes was $582,000 and 99.364 for 2013. Well, he owes a lot of money. Let's put it that way. The Saratoga North Creek began operating tourist trains in 2011, and its contract was extended for another 5 years in 2016. At a March meeting, Ellis told supervisors he was done operating the tourist trains. On Monday, Ellis said, "The county decimated our car storage business." So, that's the scoop from Iowa Pacific, which also was parking railroad cars on the near north side, Old Milwaukee Railroad switching district. Oh, what do we got?
We have to stop for station identification.
And you're listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, May the 14th, year 2018. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Chicago Junction and our panel, and we have Mr. Jack Ryan on hold, who wants to say hello. Go ahead, Jack.
Hello.
Hello, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
You got a full house going there? I don't know.
Well, I've tried to deal into a full house, but we're one short.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we're missing a joker.
Brian, and I heard Dave is there, right? Hey, hi, Dave.
Hello.
And who else is there? Is Doug
Brian
there?
is here.
No, Doug's teaching. Yeah. Doug's teaching the
Yeah,
unteachable.
Oh, and let's see, who else? Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and Ron.
Oh, I'm really psychic, aren't I? So I was hoping to be with you guys at least to say hello, and I got with the doctor today again. So anyway, I'll be somewhat limited still. So anyway, if you got some kind of detail work I can do, or contact or call, let me know, because that I can do without leaving the place. So okay.
All right.
Oh, definitely. We can keep you busy if we want.
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
if you want.
Yeah, busy work,
Can you bake cookies?
An idle mind is the devil's workshop, right? I just made that one up. So
John, one of these days you're going to have to get out of detention.
I agree. I'll break out. But anyway, listen, guys.
Someone sent me an email regarding armed teachers in the school, and it had one of your former teachers. It was a nun with a meter stick.
Well, carry on.
Well, thank you for calling in, my friend.
Be talking to you.
You got it.
Bye.
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 You saw the same thing with the nun with the rolling pin. She's a holy roller.
No, I didn't see that one, but the nun with the meter stick, or the nun with the pointer made out of half-inch dowel rod. I've had the pleasure of meeting both of those ladies in my previous life.
The good old days, right?
I tell you, I never got hit by a drill instructor as hard as I got hit by a nun.
You never do. Where do you think they learned their lessons from?
I'm not so sure about the Marine Corps drill instructors. I think the Army probably got
Soft.
trained by nuns. I don't think the nuns would tolerate the
The
vocabulary
nuns
of the
learned
Marines.
from the Marines.
Probably.
What I've been told.
Never argue with a chief.
Just remember, it's never. You don't know it's never been said, but Air Force wings are made of lead. I don't know what it's been told. Navy wings are made of gold.
Aye, aye, chief.
All right, let's. That was a wonderful train on the Santa Fe.
It was a quickie,
Hey,
too.
what's this?
High
What's this
speed.
story about this? It was the second transcontinental. What was the first
Yeah.
transcontinental?
Well,
First transcontinental built from the Atlantic to the Pacific in Panama.
Oh.
okay.
That was built before the U.S. transcontinental.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yes.
And that was laying out. They laid the tracks, so this way they knew how they, because that was all for starting the canal.
So, Indiana Transportation Museum. another sad tale.
Oh, what are they happening now?
Okay, well, they're accusing Noblesville of rushing to evict them from their longtime Forest Park home so it can seize their locomotive, passenger cars, and other railroad equipment. In a lawsuit that seeks to delay the eviction by 18 to 24 months, ITM claims that the city action is akin to criminal conversion or theft. Noblesville officials refuse to listen to reasonable argument on a practical time frame for the safe and economic removal of ITM-owned assets from Forest Park and threatened to seize all assets, according to the Hamilton County lawsuit, which requests a preliminary injunction against the city. The city told the museum to roll out of the municipal park by June 1st, but said they have no interest in taking the trains for themselves. ITM's lease with the city ended March 1st, and the evacuation time was extended 3 months. We don't want or need their equipment, said city spokesman Robert Harrington. We just want it out. The city said that they would consider extending the deadline to June 1st, 2019, but ITM President John McNichol said it isn't entirely accurate. I hear music over there.
I told my wife not to text or message me during the show. I obviously don't speak English.
No, you don't speak her form of
wifey's.
English. Yeah,
That's why you turn it off.
we were the
If I
ones.
turn it off, I'll never be able to turn it back on. It's a new phone.
We were the ones that offered the date as possible starting point, but have not heard back. I guess part of the problem too is that the railroad was taken over by a new operator, and they're not willing to move the cars.
That's right.
By rail.
Well, even the city was going to forbid them from using the rails to move.
So that would mean they'd have to truck everything out, which is going to cost them beaucoup money.
Yeah, and they actually sold one of their cars.
Yeah.
They sold the Flagler car.
Well, what do you got, Brian?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Isn't selling a rail car, theft of interstate transportation?
No,
No, if it's privately owned.
it's privately. It was Flagler's private car that somehow ended up in Indiana, and why the Florida museums didn't try to get them.
Right.
But they ended up with the Magellan. But, we have some steam news here. This is from Headlights and Markers, the newsletter of the Cincinnati Railroad Club. And
Those cinder.
the Cinder Sniffers is the Cincinnati Live Steamers.
Oh, okay.
And, yes, they had some wonderful shirts and jackets with the Cinder Sniffer symbol, which is a guy sitting on a little locomotive and the whiff of smoke just going up. And one of the members I knew, John Payne, and his dad Ralph, they went to a steam show in Columbus, and they had jackets, with the symbol on the back. They were sitting at a roadside diner, and somebody looked at them when they were coming in and going, "What the hell's a Cinder Sniffer?" And they go, "Oh, that's probably the arson squad for the fire department." But, Colorado Steams. Colorado Steams is, the narrow gauge is actually doing a lot on both the Cumbries and Toltec and the Durango Silverton. Durango Silverton, locomotive number 476, took the tracks for the first time since 1999. Totally rebuilt. It is the last survivor of its class. 7 of its sisters were sent to Alaska. And when they finished with them, they just cut them up for scrap and buried them to help stop mudslides and such. Locomotive number 168, a Denver Rio Grande Western, is currently being restored in Antonito, Colorado by Friends of the Cumbries and Toltec. And the C&TS 62-mile-long surviving narrow gauge. The locomotive itself was built in 1883, and it's a 460. And it was built for passenger service. And restoration work started in 2017. Major milestones. They figured in another couple years they should have it going. By the end of 18, the pilot's stuff had been taken apart. Now they're slowly putting it back together. So that should really give a good one. Then they're going to do a photo charter in June on the 2nd and 3rd, and it'll feature locomotive 315 both days, That was another one that just recently got repaired. It was a 280, one of the bumblebees, painted in the yellow and stripes and all, or orange, I should say. Just like in the movie Rio Grande, and then blown up with dynamite. But they have a double header that's going to run at the 484 and 483, a little double head going from Antonito to Chama, and it'll be it's going to cost $649, and that'll be August 25th and 26th. Let's see what else is going on. The Wiscasset, Waterville, Farmington Spring Photo Charter going into the main 2-foot gauge. They have several surviving locomotives. This one is formed, and number 9 will be running. Just totally rebuilt and checked out, and they got like 2.6 miles of track that were laid. They got a fundraiser from Steamtown for Boston and Maine 3713. That was from the collection, and it is a 460 or 462. And they're going to do a diesel photo freight from the Reading and Northern Railroad, Reading, Blue Mountain and Northern, on May 5th. The Odana Clipper will be a 96-mile round trip over some very historic and rare anthracite region trackage. Departing Port Clinton, the special will head to the Oneida Junction near Hazleton and Morena, and at the end of the former Lehigh Valley New Boston branch. The little train will then travel over segments of the Little Schuylkill branch, the Casawa branch of the former Reading, and as well as parts of the former Lehigh Valley's Hazleton branch, New Boston branch. Ticket information will be www.project3713.com, product category, Odina Clipper. Now, the Illinois Railway Museum. Since 1984, Union Pacific 280 428 has been at the Illinois Railway Museum Steam Shop. The restoration has been going since then. Restoration progress has been rather slow but steady. Donations recently received a matching grant up to $8,000, and this really jump-started the work in 2018. Previous donations have enabled the crew to almost complete the tender. On the locomotive itself, 2 boiler patches have been done, tubes and a test fire done to make sure the boiler was sound. Running gear has been removed almost in its entirety for a complete rebuild, of which few parts are complete and ready for reassembly. And the cab is riveted. Some woodwork for the interior is taking place. Many hours of labor have been put into the pipework, back of the boiler, and the backhead as well. This is not a dormant project. It's one the restoration crew wants to get done soon and as well as they can. Locomotive 428 will be in good condition when she leaves. She will be in as good condition as when she left the Baldwin Locomotive Plant more than 115 years ago. What needs to be finished? The air compressor, pilot truck, spring rigging, brake rigging, finishing the cab, turning all 4 driving wheel sets, axle boxes, rod work, valve work, miscellaneous pipe work, finishing the tender. It is a lot of work, but the crew will get it done. If you'd like to help with a donation, please send a check to UP 428 Fund, Illinois Railway Museum, P.O. Box 427, Union, Illinois 60180. Now, one other thing, we got bad news in steam preservation world.
Yeah.
The Tornado, the 10-year-old locomotive that's been running in Great Britain,
Yeah.
went on starting off the tourist season, a little bit out, finally hitting the 90-mile-an-hour mark. Lost its valve gear on the third cylinder. Froze right up. They got it stopped, no problem, but basically destroyed the interior valve gear. So it's going to be out for a little while. We had her up to 90.
Wow.
Yes, a real train.
No, there's more bad news. The Friends of the 261 were forced to cancel their June steam trip. Thank you, Amtrak. Informed ticket holders it was forced to cancel its planned positive train control fundraising trip from Indianapolis to the Lake Superior Railroad Museum in Duluth, Minnesota. The trip is a victim of Amtrak's new policy on special trains. The train was to operate over BNSF Railway on June 9th through 10th with Milwaukee Road 484, number 261. Revenue from the trip was to be used to help fund the installation of positive train control equipment on 261. Amtrak and BNSF had approved the trip prior to Amtrak's policy change, first announced in March and finalized in April, which prohibits most special train movements on non-Amtrak lines and severely restricts private car movements. In a letter to passengers who purchased tickets for the trip, Friends of 261 President and Chief Operating Officer Steve Sandberg said, "This is devastating news for our nonprofit organization that Amtrak would abruptly cancel this excursion only weeks from departure." Sandberg said, Friends of 261 have invested millions of dollars over the years to comply with Amtrak's strict mechanical safety standards, and we have a perfect safety record. We strongly feel that this breach is a trust that our small nonprofit organization would make this significant investment only to have Amtrak change its policy. Charter trains operated by the Friends of 261 are profitable to Amtrak and help reduce its federal subsidy, but Amtrak has decided that even though these charters generate profit, it is not sizable enough for them to put forth the effort, Sandberg said. He promised the organization would work with state and federal legislators to come up with short and long-term solutions to the charter train issue and will ask members of the Friends organization to get involved. In Duluth, the Lake Superior Railroad Museum and hotels will be affected. We expect to lose 2 trains, said Ken Bueller, the Railroad Museum's executive director, referring to the PTC special featuring 261 and a special train of private cars for the annual convention of the American Association of Private Railroad Car Owners in September. Between these 2 trains, the museum will lose somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000. The Friends will be offering full refunds for passengers who have purchased tickets. The organization plans to move ahead with PTC installation and is asking ticket holders to consider donating a portion of their ticket cost to help fund PTC work.
And under that heading, there's another train that got canceled. The Pennsylvania Railroad was going to run a special train using the E8s from that nice gentleman back east.
Right.
And contract was signed, and Amtrak decided, again, not to honor their contract. These were going to be the last trips for the E8s, and they've been totally wiped out.
Now, that
And-
was supposed to support PTC installation too, right?
Well, since he ran the engine so few, he wasn't going to put PTC in them.
Okay.
This was going to be their last trip.
All
That's
right.
it.
All right.
And it'll only come out for special occasions, like when they do gatherings, like they did in Spencer.
Right.
And again, they had a signed contract, and apparently anybody in the government, they can renege any contract that's
of
written.
course. Well,
And
data government.
and nobody likes trains. That's what their feeling is.
Well,
No, nobody wants to ride trains.
Well, the good news is the Joliet rocket is going to happen.
Yes, that is surprising.
I mean, yeah,
That is surprising considering where some of the cars are coming from.
right. They must have cut some kind of side deal with Amtrak for that.
Because they're not running on Amtrak. But that's what I don't understand. Burlington Northern was sponsoring the trip. They were going to let them run on Burlington, and all of a sudden, oh, you can't run on non-Amtrak rails. What?
What?
I mean, they did many trips to Duluth. See, this is where this is getting really hinky.
Yeah. Well, Amtrak's catching a lot of heat from a lot of different quarters, and I don't know if they're gonna, relent at some point.
I mean, the congressional board that's put this together, why they ousted that other guy that Mormon picked and put this guy in.
Well,
to do the wishes of, oh, yes, the Democrats, everybody's good. This is all Trump's fault. I'm sorry.
let's not get political here now.
I'm not really getting political.
I got beat up for that one night.
No, but see, that's just it. No. But I'm going to have to agree. Let's face it, everything is falling in that guy's lap now. And it's a shame. It really is. But, they got a whipping boy, and it's, I listen to Mauer enough. My wife doesn't like it when I come in the room.
Hey, speaking of shutting down the railroad, not this weekend, but next weekend, Metro's going to close down the Beverly branch for tire replacement all weekend.
All weekend?
All weekend. No trains all weekend. And it's the weekend of the Beverly House Walk. And what's the theme of the Beverly House Walk? The railroad. Now, doesn't that make a lot of sense?
Yes.
It's like, the railroad built our neighborhood. We're going to shut it down for the weekend just to show you.
And I'm saying, do they have enough people to do all the work that's planned?
I have no idea. They've been doing tire replacement, single tracking. For those not familiar with the Beverly branch, it's what they call current of traffic. You can only run the trains in one direction on a specific track. So when you take one track out, you have to run the trains in the opposite direction, which requires some amount of finagling and paperwork and scheduling too. The trains, I know that the north, I guess it would be the east and the westbound trains hourly meet right by 115th Street Station by my house on a normal time. So they're probably holding the eastbound at Blue Island to get the westbound train through. So it affects schedules.
Yeah, it do.
Yeah, I'll find out tomorrow when I take the 1011 downtown. But there's something else going on in Chicago, and people may remember, if you're a Chicagoan, the big steel plant that was over on the near north side.
Finkel Steel?
Finkel Steel, right. Well, Finkel Steel has moved to the south side, vacated the land, and basically it's gone. So they've got a place called the Developer. Let's see, what's the name of the developer? Sterling Bay. They have released a grandiose rendering of its Lincoln Yards. They're calling it Lincoln Yards Mega Project, and the plans for a 20,000-seat professional soccer stadium. And Mr. Ricketts from the Cubs, that's going to be his soccer stadium. So one of the things they want to do is they want to put light rail in. They're talking about light rail again. I don't know if people remember the famous light rail project that was going to run over the Northwestern Bridge, over by the Tribune, not by the Tribune, but by the Sun-Times.
Sun-Times.
Yeah, they used to run paper down to the printing plants when they were still down there. Well, that never went anywhere, so now they've got a new one. Supposedly this new development is going to include a new metro station, and I'm not sure if it's going to replace the Clybourne station because it's going to be close to the Clybourne station. But they're also going to plan on extending the 606 Yuppie Trail over the old Milwaukee Road Swing Bridge that used to work, but then somebody stole all the wiring. And I guess they finally have Iowa Pacific's finally pulled out. They've gotten them thrown out of there. But the last holdout is Ozinga. which is around, let's see, I think Ozinga's over by Chicago Avenue and Halsted. And they're trying to convince Ozinga to move out, too. And Ozinga's like, we don't want to move. We like it here. We got river access. You know, we can unload stuff. So that's going on there. And also Glenview is ponying up $400,000 to fight the installation of a passing track.
Oh, I was going to mention that, too. Yes.
Yeah, $400,000, $50,000 of it, which would go to a public relations firm.
And it was, you know, yeah, we're all set to. I'm going. This is railroad property, and you telling them they can't do what they want on their property.
Well, they're claiming that there was not due diligence when the research was done. Let's see, officials with the Federal Railroad Administration, Illinois, and Wisconsin Departments of Transportation are due to release a final version of the environmental assessment of the project, and when they do, Glenview is prepared to push back. There will be $5,000 that can go for public relations, lobbying, $100,000 in research, $100,000 to lawsuits, and $100,000 as contingency.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going, now what could you be doing with this money in Glenview?
Well, you know.
No, you know. I mean,
And how much money would Glenview receive in taxes for trains running through that bypass track?
I don't know. I don't know what the property what they charge in terms of taxes for what would be improved property, additional track put on the rail, put on the right of way. They could probably tax that, but you know, these people are totally against the trains because they're, number one, afraid of locomotives sitting there and idling for long periods of time. People not being able to cross the tracks because crossings will be blocked, although I don't know of any crossings that are going to be in the passing track. You know, they're not going to put a crossing in the middle of a passing track if they don't have to, as far as I know. I could be wrong. There may be a crossing there already. Metro said the expansion of the rail service will make the Milwaukee District North Line, where there's no reverse commute service, more reliable. You know, there's all sorts of good things that would come of this. Amtrak would increase the frequency of the trains. They'd have more trains going to Milwaukee. It's a very popular route. It's a moneymaker for them. But not in my backyard, baby.
The NIMBY strike again?
Yep.
that's it.
NIMBY,
Yeah.
a group of NIMBYs?
NIMBYs, yep.
NIMBYs.
NIMBY.
Now, I guess we should, close down on that note.
Okay, I guess we can do that.
It's coming to the end of the run, and apparently we can keep going in the same vein.
We could go on forever, folks.
Yes,
Ever.
we could.
We could blah blah all night.
So, as we say to the others, from myself, Ron, Kevin, and Dave, we say happy rails to you on this wonderful 149th anniversary of the Golden Spike.
And John Ryan was there.
And John Ryan was there.
Ladies and gentlemen, please gather your belongings and your children.
As our express comes into the station, we want to thank you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast and all our past episodes for the sample and also sample some of the other programs that are being offered by this fine station. This is your announcer, Brian Ballou. Till next month, we'll journey again to Chicago Junction.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and from the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, May 14th, the year 2014. Chicago Junction was directed by John DeVita. And our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS-FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, May the 10th, the year 2018. Until next time, be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.